This is slide 2 in our Imperialism unit. And as I told you, we're going to talk about some specific examples of American imperialism. The first of those being in Hawaii. Okay. As early as 1820, so going way back here, as early as 1820, the first Protestant missionaries arrived in Hawaii. Now, by that point, Hawaii was already, its own little nation. It had treaties with other countries. It did business with other countries. But the United States discovered that if we're going to be a true world power, we need a presence in the Pacific Ocean. And Hawaii is about halfway between the United States and Asia. So Hawaii looks to be more and more a better location for the U.S. So American missionaries go to Hawaii to start converting pagan souls to Christianity, right? We also have a military interest. Again, if we are going to be a power in Asia, around the world, but specifically in Asia, we have to be able to get our Navy to Asia. And Hawaii, being about halfway between the two, makes the perfect location to set up a refueling base. And there is a deepwater natural port in Hawaii that the Americans named Pearl Harbor. Okay? Again, it's very strategically located in the Pacific. It allows us to keep our Navy in the Pacific and to keep them a force in the Pacific. We can respond to any sort of interaction or crisis in Asia from Hawaii. It's just a good military location. So the U.S. government takes a big interest in Hawaii. Okay? Now, we said there are three big reasons here kind of for colonizing. Religion was one, and the missionaries went to Hawaii. Military was one, and the military goes to Hawaii. The other one was economics, and it's going to play probably the biggest role in Hawaii becoming part of the U.S. Okay? Some of the first American businessmen in Hawaii go to set up sugar plantations. Sugar cane is grown in tropical regions. It grows very well in Hawaii. And sugar businessmen, sugar lords as they are called, set up plantations on the islands of Hawaii. Okay? And as more and more Americans and Europeans start arriving in Hawaii, they bring with them a lot of diseases. Okay? And native Hawaiians that go to work on the sugar plantations start contracting these diseases. And they start dying left and right. So the American sugar lords need workers on the sugar plantations. They bring in immigrants from Asia. Okay? The Philippines, Japan, China, all will send workers, peasants mainly, looking for work to Hawaii to get jobs. And they work on the sugar plantations. Sometimes students ask, why are there so many Japanese people in Hawaii? This is why, still today. By 1900, Chinese and Japanese immigrants outnumbered native Hawaiians and white Americans. So there's more Chinese and Japanese immigrants in Hawaii than Hawaiians or Americans. So Asian immigrants will come to Hawaii working on the sugar plantations, and they just stay still to this day. Okay? Now, there was a tariff, and hopefully, as you know now, a tariff is not, it's a type of tax, but it's a specific type of tax. It's a tax on imports, right, specifically. This tariff, known as the Mckinley Tariff, after the Secretary of the Treasury, the Mckinley Tariff was passed in 1890, and it raised tariffs on sugar imports. So imports of sugar coming into the United States. McKinley's trying to protect American sugar growers, but really what he does is screw with the sugar coming out of Hawaii, because Hawaii is not a U.S. state at this time. It's not even a U.S. territory. So any sugar grown in Hawaii and shipped to the United States gets taxed. Well, the sugar lords on Hawaii obviously don't want to pay a tax. So the easiest, the simplest, the quickest way around this is to make Hawaii part of the United States. And if Hawaii is indeed a territory of the United States, they wouldn't have to pay the tax on sugar coming into the United States. Okay? So this is really kind of where the sugar lords are the ones driving for the United States government to take over Hawaii. Now, who's going to have a problem with this? Obviously, the native Hawaiians are. Okay? And they are led by two brother and a sister, a queen and a king here. King Kalakaua and Queen Liliuokalani. Two of my favorite names. Love saying those. King Kalakaua had led the Hawaiian people for quite some time, but he dies, so his sister, Queen Liliuokalani, will come to the throne. And the queen decides, much like her brother had, that they'd had about enough of Americans coming in and taking over their islands and telling them what God to worship and how to conduct their business and where their money was going to go. Okay? So the queen decides she's going to fight back. She's had enough of this. Right? And she has an ally. Right? When all of this started, the whole sugar lords and the talk of taking over Hawaii had started, the president was a man named President Benjamin Harrison. Okay? And Harrison was very much an imperialist. He believed in taking over other lands, expanding U.S. interests and business and all of that. He was a Republican. Right? Harrison put a treaty in front of the Senate and said, we would like to annex Hawaii. Okay? Annexation is simply the first step toward making it a state. Okay? Harrison sends a treaty to the Senate for their approval to annex Hawaii. Queen Liliuokalani fights the treaty, but much to her dismay, it's not going well. But Harrison's term ends, right? And President Grover Cleveland is elected. Grover Cleveland will become our next president. Cleveland was a Democrat and an anti-imperialist. He did not believe that the United States had any right or reason to be taking over other countries. So Cleveland withdraws the treaty from the Senate before it can be voted on. So Hawaii is saved. They are not going to be taken over by the U.S. Queen Liliuokalani has saved her people, or so we think. As you know, Hawaii is indeed part of the U.S., so something has to happen to change all of this. That's why it says more to come later. We'll get back to our Hawaiian story in just a bit.